Welcome back to Reddit Tales by Uncle Sammy. I see you, I appreciate you, and I'm thankful you subscribed and keep showing up. This space is built on your insights. Leave your thoughts and lessons below. Now, cue the tension, cue the truth, let's get into it. The cruelest thing Simone Langston ever did was slide divorce papers across our kitchen island like she was doing me a favor, smiling while she called my life mediocre, telling me she found someone more ambitious, walking out to be picked up by him, and then having him text me afterward demanding her grandmother's ring back as if I was just an errand to clean up. Here's how it happened. The divorce packet sat on the kitchen island like a dare. Simone Langston slid it toward me, nails freshly done, tapping the edge 3 times, a habit she used whenever she wanted control, without raising her voice. "I'm doing this for both of us," she said, smiling with rehearsed gentleness. "Mostly for you. You'll thank me." I held my mug and watched the coffee lose steam. 5 years married, 5 years of routines and compromises, and her signature was already on every page, confident final, while my line stayed empty, waiting for surrender or sense in the quiet between breaths. Simone leaned back like she had already moved out in her mind. "You're holding me back," she said, eyes sweeping our 2-bedroom rental above the bakery in Cleveland's Tremont neighborhood. The air carried warm yeast and street salt. Outside, an RTA bus sided at the stop, and sleet clicked against the glass. She used stagnant like it meant mildew, not a life. I want to say comfort was not shame, that stability could be love, but my old habits surfaced, swallowing disagreement, so she could keep believing her story without resistance. Her phone lay face down, vibrating like a verdict. If you've ever watched someone rewrite your life like you were the problem, stay with me, because the way she tried to set me free turned into the best thing that ever happened to me, and she did not see it coming. "I met someone," Simone added, like she was mentioning groceries. "Miles Harrow, regional manager at a software startup." She said his name slowly, tasting the syllables. "I worked as a systems analyst for a health insurer downtown. Solid salary, good benefits, predictable hours." Simone had started treating predictable like an insult. She traced the rim of her glass and looked up. "Miles is ambitious. He's going places." The message landed without shouting. My steadiness was no longer flattering. It was evidence in her mind that I would never outrun her appetite. I stared at the calendar, realizing she planned this. She stood and paced, heels quiet on the laminate. "This place is suffocating," she said, gesturing at our mismatched chairs and the coat rack I repaired twice. "Miles is a loft near the river, floor-to-ceiling windows, rooftop access." She said rooftop like a promise. My voice came out smaller than I expected. "We built this together." Her smile softened, almost kind. "You should want more for yourself, too. I'm setting you free." The cruelty arrived wrapped as help, and I hated how I almost thanked her for it. The radiator clanked, and I counted each knock to stay calm today. Simone smoothed her blazer and checked her screen. "He's picking me up in 20 minutes, she said. "I've already moved most of my things. The rest you can donate." I stared at her like she had switched languages. "Just like that?" I asked. "Just like that," she replied, shrugging, as though finality was practical. At the door, she turned back with bright certainty. "The lease is in both our names through next month. After that, it's your problem. You're good at maintaining the status quo." Her words left a thin cut I cannot see, only feel in my throat. The door closed with a soft click, and the apartment felt too large for one person's breathing. I listened to the radiator ticking, the bakery downstairs waking up, trays clattering under fluorescent light. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number read, "This is Miles. Simone says you need to return her grandmother's ring. It's valuable, and she deserves it for sentimental reasons. Leave it with the building manager." I pictured Simone on our second date, holding that ring like a vow and swearing it mattered more than money. My laugh came out dry. I put my phone down. I did not chase her, and I did not answer Miles. The first week ran on autopilot. Work, microwave dinners, and television that blurred into static. I avoided the bedroom because the half-empty closet made the air feel sharp. When anxiety rose, I walked loops through Lincoln Park until my lungs burned, then returned to silence. I reread Simone's last lines, not because I misunderstood them, but because I needed to believe I was mishearing contempt inside her politeness. I learned that quiet can be a cage when you treat it like peace. Even the hallway light felt judgmental. On the 9th day, my older brother, Terrence Mercer, showed up unannounced with pizza and 2 six-packs, as if he could bribe grief into leaving. Terrence always entered a room like he owned oxygen. He looked at me and said, "You look like somebody cut the power." He pushed past me and scanned the shelves. "She cleaned you out." I nodded. She said it didn't fit her new life. Terrence cracked a window, letting cold air bite. "Sit," he ordered. I sat, because for once direction felt like relief inside my chest. He set the boxes down with military care. Over slices and beer, Terrence named the problem without sugar. "I saw her posts," he said. "Rooftops, expensive menus, the whole performance." I admitted I had not looked. Not blocking her felt like leaving a door unlocked, but I could not yet define safety. Terrence leaned forward, elbows on my table. "Here's the hard truth. She did you a favor, even if she meant it as an insult." The sentence stung, because Simone had said it with a smile that demanded gratitude. I stared at the grease spot on the box and felt my jaw tighten for days. Terrence reminded me of the quiet veto Simone had practiced. The senior role I mentioned in Seattle, dismissed as your ego talking. The certification course I wanted, labeled wasteful because she had a boutique concept that never left a notebook. On the weekends I gave up because she preferred brunch photos under neon signs. Terrence tapped his knuckles on the table. "She doesn't want to build," he said. "She wants the appearance of a building." I wanted to defend her out of reflex, but my silence suddenly felt less like loyalty and more like fear-wearing manners. That realization sat heavy overnight. The next morning, head aching, I opened the certification program I had bookmarked for months. The fee was $3,000, money I would have argued about before. My thumb hovered over the payment button long enough for doubt to rise like heat. Then I clicked submit. It was not bravery. It was defiance against my hesitation. At work that Monday, I volunteered for a security overhaul everyone avoided, an audit for a hospital network with brutal deadlines. My manager blinked. "You're sure?" I answered, "Yes, and I'll own it." I joined Terrence's gym that same week, a converted warehouse in Ohio City, where the air smelled like rubber mats and citrus cleaner. The coach, Mariah Keene, ran small groups and enforced consistency with a whistle and a warm laugh that made people return. Her rule was simple. Show up tired, show up upset, but show up. In the evenings, I replaced television with meal prep and playlists, chopping vegetables to old jazz. When anxiety hit, I wrote 3 plain lines in a notebook, no poetry, just truth. I was building habits because feelings were unreliable constructors in my hands. Within 3 weeks, I knew more names than I had in the past year. Nolan Price, a high school teacher separating from his spouse, wore sarcasm like armor and quoted movies at the worst times. Renee Holloway, a nurse with 3 kids, laughed loudly and refused pity. Devontae Briggs, a freelance designer, pulled me into Thursday trivia at a corner pub off Lorraine Avenue. I began saying yes. Yes to walks at Edgewater. Yes to Renee's book club above a neighborhood bookstore. Yes to small plans that made the week feel wider. Each yes loosened the knot under my ribs. The certification course stretched my brain in ways I had forgotten were possible. I studied at coffee shops to avoid the apartment's echo, choosing one near the West Side Market, where windows fogged and strangers argued about sports. I took notes with obsessive care, drawing diagrams, rewriting them, finding comfort in logic. Some nights I woke at 2:26 a.m. and reached for a phone that offered nothing. On those nights, I listened to buildings settle, then reminded myself I was learning to sit with discomfort instead of bargaining for escape. 4 months in, a recruiter emailed about a senior systems role with remote flexibility and a salary jump that made me reread the number twice. I did not celebrate. I checked details like good news required permission. I scheduled a call and walked home through slush, passing the bakery as it closed. Warm bread drifted into the street, and I realized I was hungry in a normal way. not in a hollow way grief makes everything taste like air. For the first time since Simone left, my body believed tomorrow meant more than recovery. News about Simone arrived indirectly, the way weather does, through other people. Renee mentioned it during a post-workout smoothie run. She asked if my ex was still with Miles, then showed me an article. The startup was collapsing after funding pullout, layoffs stacking week by week. My cousin works there, she said. Leadership is panicking. I read the headline and felt something complicated. Not joy, not sorrow, just a tight awareness that choices do not float forever. Consequences move slowly at first, then suddenly, like ice shifting underweight until the surface finally gives. A few weeks later, Terrence called with gossip delivered like a weather report. Miles left her, he said. When his job started falling apart, she wasn't supportive. He told people she used ambition like a weapon. I listened, surprised by how little satisfaction I felt. Karma did not arrive with music. It arrived with bills and uncomfortable conversations. I kept going to gym, kept showing up at work, kept letting my life fill with things that did not require Simone's approval. I noticed my shoulders sat lower, as if I had been bracing for years. My shoulders sat lower, if unclenched at last. The building manager from our old place called on a rainy afternoon. Your ex-wife is here, she said, sounding tired. She's trying to get into the old unit. I told her you moved out. I stared at the gray sky outside my office window. We've been divorced 9 months, I said. The lease ended 8 months ago. The manager sighed. I told her. She's insisting she has rights. I thanked her and ended the call. That night a text arrived from a new number. We need to talk. My stomach tightened. My voice stayed steady. I did not respond. The next evening another message came. I made a mistake. Coffee. I blocked it. Then an email arrived from an unfamiliar address. Long and frantic. Signed with her full name like a stamp. She wrote about losing the loft, quitting her job to focus on a relationship, maxing credit cards to maintain appearances, and needing a place to stay temporarily. She wrote that I was the only person she could count on, as if history were a contract. I read it once, then archived it. Silence was not revenge. It was a fence I built alone. Simone tried another angle through Terrence, somehow getting his number. Terrence relayed the call with disbelief. She said marriage means something, he told me. I remembered how Simone used that line when she wanted leverage, not when she wanted responsibility. Terrence added, I told her you were engaged. Not true, but I needed her to stop circling you. I should have laughed, but my chest felt tired. I thanked him anyway. I understood what he built. A fence made from a lie because the truth still felt too easy to trespass. I promised myself I would not need that again. 2 weeks later, Simone appeared at my gym during a crowded evening session. I was mid-set when I saw her at the entrance, scanning faces like she was searching for the safest landing spot. She looked thinner, the confident polish replaced with fatigue and rush makeup. Her outfit was ordinary, but her posture still tried to project certainty. Nolan caught my expression and asked quietly if it was her. Before I answered, Simone spotted me, and her face brightened with relief that tried to pass as confidence. I racked the weight and walked toward her, choosing calm on purpose first. You look incredible, Simone said, like a compliment could erase context. I did not return it. I asked why she was there, keeping my voice low. Her fingers worried the strap of her bag, twisting it with each breath. She said she had been trying to reach me. I told her I knew. Her eyes flashed, and she asked why I ignored her. I remembered the nail tapping, the controlled smiles. Now her hands shook. I said we were divorced, no kids, no shared property, nothing requiring a meeting. The words sounded clear, and I held them like a railing. Her tears came fast. She said Miles failed her, that the shiny life was hollow. I told her I was sorry it hurt, keeping distance. She accused me of acting like she never mattered, listing my job, my apartment, my body. A softer part of me felt the old urge to soothe, but I recognized a hook inside the complaint. I did not reach for her. I let the gym music thump behind us while I held my face neutral. Watching her realize my silence would not fold felt strangely quiet. I chose boundaries over nostalgia, even when it stung. I reminded her of what she said in our kitchen. You told me I'd thank you. I said, steady, for setting me free. She swallowed and started to apologize, but I raised a hand, gentle and final. I told her she'd been right about one thing. I was coasting, and I did not notice until she left. Confusion crossed her face, then hope. She whispered that we could start over, do it right. I said no, clearly without heat. The hope in her eyes flickered, then collapsed into anger, and I refused to explain away the rejection. She demanded to know what I meant, so I guided her toward a bench near the lockers, away from curious eyes. I told her that when she left I cycled through anger, sadness, numbness, and then an unsettling relief I did not want to admit. She repeated relief like it injured her. I explained it was a relief from justifying every choice and from my evenings no longer being audited. I admitted my own fault. I stayed quiet for years because I confused conflict with failure, and I thought silence was love. That mistake made me smaller than I should be. Simone pressed her lips together, searching for an opening. She said I was punishing her, that she was struggling while I was thriving. I told her I was not punishing anyone. I was not rescuing her. Her shoulders slumped and she admitted she had nowhere to go. Her cards maxed, deposits out of reach. Her parents unable to help. The old reflex to fix tugged at me. But I remembered what survival looked like after a settlement. Roommates, cheap meals, overtime for rent. I asked myself, quietly, if help would mend or restart cycles. I pulled out my phone and typed, "Finger steady." I showed her a number for a community agency that helps with emergency housing, job leads, and financial counseling, the same place that helped Nolan after his separation. Simone stared at the screen like it offended her. She asked if that was all. I said it was what I could offer. She whispered that we were truly finished. I told her we had been finished for a long time. She searched my face with a man who used a bend. She could not find him, so she walked out without copying the number. After the session, Nolan asked if I was okay. I said yes and meant it. That night Terrence called, amused and proud, and I described the tears, the request, the number, and my refusal. Terrence exhaled like he had been holding breath for months. He said it took backbone. Later I stared at my kitchen table, now clean, no papers, no threats. I admitted I thought it would hurt more. Terrence said, "You already shattered. You rebuilt with better materials." I believed him. I washed the dishes slowly, letting the water run, practicing a calm I once borrowed from her. Months passed without new messages, and I did not miss them. Work found a rhythm. I managed projects, solved stubborn problems, and logged off without dread. On Saturdays, I shopped at a farmer's market near Shaker Square, learning which vendor sold the best apples and which slipped extra herbs into my bag. I kept my notebook habit, writing truths when my thoughts spun. I also owned my failures, ignoring red flags, mistaking endurance of love, staying silent to avoid conflict because I feared being seen as difficult. Those confessions did not shame me. They clarified me, and clarity felt like air. In October, I met Devontae and Renee at a coffee shop in Detroit Shoreway to work on a small consulting side project. Laptops covered the table. Cords tangled. Iced coffee sweated on the napkins. We laughed about a client's impossible request and argued over a fix, the kind of disagreement that stayed respectful. When I went to refill my cup, I noticed Simone across the room, alone, hunched over a scuffed laptop. She looked up and our eyes met. I nodded, polite and distant. She did not approach. As I passed, I saw job applications open in tabs. She was trying. A month later, Terrence forwarded me a post Simone wrote. She had landed an entry-level role at a small marketing firm near Columbus and looked healthier in the photo, less performed. Her caption was simple. Starting over is not failure. It is courage. I stared at the words longer than I planned. I did not read them as a plea. I read them as evidence of a lesson learned. I tapped like and closed the app. It was not romance or reconciliation, only acknowledgement. Sometimes kindness is recognizing effort without reopening a door you already closed. Winter returned with hard wind and early darkness. I traveled to a conference in Pittsburgh for work, And on the second day, I met Kiara Bell, a cybersecurity consultant with a quick laugh and direct questions. She disagreed with me about an encryption standard, then explained her reasoning without trying to win. I appreciated that. We talked again after the keynote, then over dinner near Market Square, where the soup tasted homemade. On our third meeting, I told her, I'm not interested in impressing. I'm interested in reality. She smiled and said student loans kept her honest. I liked that. Kiara and I moved slowly, not from fear, but from respect for rebuilding. We traded routines before romance. She called during late drives back to Cleveland, hands-free, and told me what she was reading. I told her about Mariah's Rule and how it taught me consistency. Kiara teased me about meal prep containers lined up like a lab experiment. I teased her about checking door locks twice. We disagreed, but we did not weaponize it. I noticed how strange it felt to speak openly without preparing for blame or defense. I felt my shoulders relax mid-sentence, which never happened before. I didn't expect that calm after a fight. Nearly a year after the divorce finalized, I received a message from an unknown number and almost deleted it. Something made me open it. Simone wrote that she got promoted, found a therapist, and was learning why she chased things that did not matter. She thanked me for not rescuing her, saying she needed to learn to rescue herself. I read it twice, then set my phone down and breathed. The old part of me wanted a perfect response. The newer part understood closure did not need polish. I replied, I'm glad you're doing better. Take care of yourself. Short and honest. Later that night, in the apartment I chose and furnished with my taste, I replayed Simone's speech without bitterness. She had said I would thank her, meaning dismissal, proof she had outgrown me. I learned freedom was not escape from a person. It was choosing without fear. I chose growth over comfort, truth over silence, community over isolation. I chose people who challenged me without belittling me. I forgave myself for staying too long. Forgiveness did not excuse her cruelty. It stopped her words from renting space in my head. I slept with the window cracked, hearing the city breathe. In the weeks that followed, my definition of success shifted. It was not rooftop access or curated dinners. It was waking early, making oatmeal, and taking 10 quiet minutes to plan my day. It was paying bills without panic, calling Terrence just a laugh, and showing up for Nolan's mediation hearing without being asked. It was saying no without apology. I thought about the ring miles demanded and realized I never checked whether Simone reclaimed it. That question no longer controlled me. Some days I felt gratitude without a target, which surprised me. I learned attention is a currency worth guarding. Kiara came over one Sunday with takeout from a spot on the east side and a stack of board games she insisted were good for character. I lost 3 rounds and accused her of unfair strategy. She laughed and admitted she liked winning because it proved nothing had to be dramatic to be satisfying. Later, while we cleaned up, I told her a truth I hid for years. I stayed quiet in my marriage because I confused conflict with failure. Kiara listened without flinching. Quiet isn't always peace, she said. Sometimes it's fear in a suit. I nodded, grateful, quiet. Spring came slowly. Then all at once, potholes filled, jackets unzipped, sunlight lingering past dinner. I kept my gym schedule and started volunteering once a month at a neighborhood tech workshop Devontae helped run, teaching basics to adults changing careers. Watching people struggle, then finally get it, reminded me how courage looks in ordinary clothes. I stopped thinking of Simone as the villain and myself as the hero. We were 2 imperfect people with clashing definitions of value, and I ignored warning signs because I wanted peace. That admission made my future choices sharper. I kept the lesson, not the bitterness. One afternoon, while Kiara and I walked along the Lake Erie's shoreline, my phone buzzed with a reminder for my certification renewal. A year ago, that alert would have felt like pressure. Now it felt like continuity. Kiara squeezed my hand and asked if I ever thought about going back. I looked out at the water, gray-blue under a thin sun, and answered without drama. I think about what I tolerated, I told her, and I do not miss it. Kiara nodded, understanding the difference between reflection and longing. Wind lifted her hair, and I felt present right there then. That night, I opened my notebook and wrote one sentence. I do not confuse being chosen with being valued. I remembered Simone's final kitchen smile and how she expected gratitude to sound like surrender. I did feel thankful, but not in her direction. I was thankful for Terrence's love, for Mariah's consistency, for friends who kept showing up, for work that challenged me, for Kiera's honesty, and for the version of me that stopped asking permission to grow. My phone buzzed with Kiera's text. "Still awake?" I smiled and called her. Her voice arrived and freedom looked ordinary. If this hits close to home, share it with someone who needs a reminder that silence can be strength, and walking away can be the cleanest comeback. And if you want more real, grounded stories where respect matters and consequences unfold, check the next video on your screen. The end.